On this episode of What's Going On with Shipping, if you ever wondered who would win, a container ship or a ferry, you're about to see. This happened this past Sunday down in Santos, Brazil, with the MV CAP San Antonio outbound from the port, ship of the Hamburg Sud Line, when CAP San Antonio took out part of the ferry terminal in the town of Santos. Today on What's Going On with Shipping. Hi, I'm Sal Mercagliano, Associate Professor of History at Campbell University, a former merchant mariner, and a instructor in maritime industry policy at the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. So we have another collision that took place this past Sunday down in Santos, Brazil. The outbound MV Cap San Antonio, leaving Santos, Brazil, hit the ferry terminal at the end of the estuary right there, at the end of the transit out of the port, before heading out into the deep ocean. So I thought we'd look at this event in some more detail, kind of break it down a little bit so you understand. A lot of videos out there on it, some great videos on it. It's pretty harrowing, actually. Pretty scary event took place. Fortunately, nobody got hurt, which is always something that we hope for all the time. So let me show you this. This is the story. In G Captain, Hamburg Sud ship takes out passenger loading dock in Santos, Brazil. Hamburg Sud is a German line that is now owned by Maersk, and they operate in what's called the North-South trade, basically operating between Europe, Northern Europe, and the South American eastern coast. The ship, 333 meters long, lost control, ended up plowing into a ferry loading dock at the Santos estuary while departing the port of Santos. She is right now, right here, as you see, she's anchored off the port of Santos, and you'll find out why here in a second, why she is at anchor. She has to assess some damage. What I want to do here is show you the port and where she was coming out of. So this is the port of Santos. You'll see ships up here along the container terminal. Here's one of her sister ships up here. And she was coming southbound out of the river here, heading down out of the river. And a couple of pieces of real estate I want to show you right here that are going to be important in this. Small little marina here with a park and some tennis courts. Remember the tennis courts, they're going to come back up. And then this is the ferry dock right here. These ferries are these flat barge ferries. See them loading cars right here. There's a couple of them right here, a couple of ferries right here, just at dock right there. And they go across the river here. You can see several of them crossing right here. Basically, in lieu of a bridge, they use these car ferries to get across. And what's going to happen here, and unfortunately, I don't have a track of the Cap San Antonio. I've seen one. She was coming out at about 8 knots. And she's coming down, and what she's going to do, is you'll see here in the video, is basically turn late, side swipe into this area here where the tennis courts and the park is, and then take out some of these ferries before heading out into the deep water. The story here by G Captain has got a couple of videos in here. All of them are really good. You get a lot of detail here. I want to show you this first video here, which I think is actually it's the last video that I want to show, because I think this is the one that probably gives you some of the most detail of it here. So I'm going to let this play here. A couple of things to note. Number one, you'll notice the ship is extremely light loaded. That's the bulbous bow out of the water. It's not just light in the water, it is up out of the water, which indicates that, number one, you can see she's barely carrying any containers on board. So she's really high. The dark color here underneath Hamburg Sud line, that's the part of the ship that's usually below the water line. And so she's really high up here. Here's that park I was talking about. Here's the tennis courts. And what you can see is she is turning late. She is turning late. Now, we don't know why this happened. A couple of things could be at play here. Number one, she is so light that normal helm orders are taking longer to take effect than they normally would. As she comes past, you'll see part of the prop is out of the water and part of the rudder is out of the water. She's so high up, which means that being so high up, she's not riding like she normally does. It may take longer for her to get helm orders to turn the vessel than before. It could be wind. She's lightly loaded. She's high up. She could be having that surface effect with the wind coming in. Could be mechanical. We don't know. We know she's doing about 8 knots here, and you see she's going to take damage right along the side here. Fortunately, it's obviously deep enough that she's not touching bottom right here. This is an image later on, and I'm going to stop right here because I'm going to come back to this one because I want to show it to you from a different angle. And it's this video right here. This is the one here from the front. So let me go ahead and play this video right here. Number one, you get the wind here a little bit. So you know it's a little bit windy here. This is, she's past that park. She's past those tennis courts. These are those ferries that go across here. You'll see the car ferries right there. A couple of barges out here alongside, and she's going to touch right alongside here. And not only does she touch, but you're going to see the ship's going to suffer hull damage when this happens. So you see right here, she suffered a gash in the hull. So one of the things to note here is water is not going into the vessel, it's coming out of the vessels. That means her ballast tanks. These are the tanks that are loaded with water to put her hull down when she's lightly loaded. So she has ballast on board. She's got water up that high on her side. She's still that high out of the water. This is how lightly loaded this vessel is. So she's extremely light at this moment. And that is significant hull damage right there. That gash that size, that is significant. And you can see she's marked all the way down the hull. And you can hear her still hitting. And you're still getting the wind effect too. That is the car ferry they're standing on getting hit right now. And you'll see a very quick evacuation off the car ferry. And you'll see the car ferry basically sinking right there. What had been a car ferry for a few minutes now is gone. And there you can see that gash on the side there coming out. Significant damage, obviously, to the vessel, and significant damage to the ferry, too. Having sunk a car ferry, I'm going to say that's pretty significant. Sorry, my Portuguese, I have no idea what they're saying, so I apologize. It is Brazil. Obviously, I mean, vessels this size pass in and out of there all the time without an issue. But this is obviously significant coming out of port here. And again, we're not sure. She has a pilot on board. There's an image here of the pilot ladder being down. Notice here, this is the propeller back there. You can see it throwing up some wake right there. I'm gonna pause right there. You can see some prop wash being thrown up. You can see part of the rudder sticking up out of there. That much of the rudder out, even though it doesn't seem like a lot, means that that rudder is not deep in the water. It means it doesn't have a lot of grip, and it's not giving you a lot of control over it. Same thing with the propeller. If the propeller's not in the water, you're not getting a lot. Ship has stern and bow thrusters. That's what that marking is right there. But obviously at 8 knots, which is what she was doing, that's not going to be enough to grab and be able to use. I got to say, the sound of steel scraping right here, it's the worst thing in the world. It's nightmares for mariners. Kicking up that dust right there. You got to think right here. She's got to, the only way she can get off this is by turning to the right, putting the rudder over to the right. But to do that, to get that rudder turned, you have to kick the stern out to the left. And so she's got to scrape up along that side. And here's a little bit more visual damage of her side. She's already leaked out most of that ballast water. And you see the scratches and the damage all the way down the hull. Just a significant amount of damage to the vessel right there. That's going to take a lot of work to make sure there's not other damage below the waterline too. You see the ladder down there? There's the pilot ladder right there. So that's for getting the pilot ladder up. And this is the damage to the car ferries right here. Again, some significant damage on the exit of the vessel out of the port. I'll come to that video we were watching here a little while ago. This is the first one we were watching right here. You'll see right about, where's it here? When they go forward, you can see she had hit right over here. That's where that scrape had taken place, where she's leaking. You can see the ballast water coming out of her right there. This is a higher view of the stern. You can see the guards right there for the ferries right there, those pylons right there. Where she hit, that's probably where she did it. The concrete pylons is probably what took out that side of the vessel. Just a big hit right there. This is a worst nightmare for mariners, all told. The idea of hitting and just having collisions, just I can't tell you how bad this is for that crew on board. And again, we don't know what the issues are. High winds maybe is an issue. We hear the wind, but we don't know how fast the wind is. But I think it's the lightly loaded nature of this vessel. It changes the characteristics of the vessel. We saw the bulbous bow high up out of the water. The ship's almost sitting on top of the water on the bow, riding very high on the bow, low in the stern. The ship obviously has got surface area and probably doesn't handle the way they expected it to handle. And coming out even at 7, 8 knots results in this accident. So again, not as dramatic as the last incidents we saw with the ship coming into Taiwan and sideswiping there and taking out gantry cranes, but still a significant accident happened. And again, as I tell people all the time, the maritime industry unfortunately has accidents happen more frequently than we think. We see them more thanks to smartphones and videos and everything, so we get to see these issues happen more regularly. But I think it's important to put a light on it because again, all these great pieces of machinery have one flaw, and it's human beings are at the helm and at the engines and at the controls, and we make mistakes. And unfortunately, you get to see big mistakes on this scale with global shipping. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you enjoy this episode of what's going on with shipping and want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Be sure to hit a thumbs up so other people will see this video and it'll be shared around YouTube. Please share it on social media. Go ahead, put it on Facebook. Go ahead, put it on Twitter. Go ahead and put it on any other social media platform you use and hit the bell so that when new videos come out, when the next container ship takes out something else, and it'll happen, I guarantee you that, you'll be alerted about it and you can get my commentary on what's happening. Again, I'm Sal Mercagliano. I appreciate you tuning in. And until the next episode of What's Going On with Shipping, I'm signing off.